Hello and welcome to Wellbeing. I'm Jack Hodgins. Today we'll be discussing the well-being of those in small business during COVID. We are talking to Michael Cardamone, the owner of the West Melbourne-based Italian restaurant Amiconi. Amiconi is family-run and has been serving generations of customers since 1960. Hello Michael, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, my friend.
What is the importance of small business to Australian society?
Well, small business employs the most amount of people in our economy, basically, and it's the backbone of the economy.
And do you think they've been getting a fair go?
Well, not really, because small business, relies on us providing the goods and services that Australia and the public delivers on a daily basis.
And have you seen it change over time, say since you first started?
Well, over the years, I've actually, been the owner of Amiconi in the last 39 years. So the previous owners were the actual Amiconi family, who are my son's godparents. The old adage is, the harder you work, the more you make. Well, that theory doesn't relate any longer.
Let's talk a bit about the story of the restaurant. How long has it been in the family?
Okay, the restaurant started in 1960 under the Amiconi restaurant, or the Amiconi family banner. The family ran it for about 21, 22 years, and I bought the restaurant back in 1982 with my brother. So it's nearly been 39 years that the restaurant has been operating. 13 years ago, 2 of my 6 chefs had been working with me as apprentices since for about 25 years. They became partners. So my brother had left many years ago, and the 2 boys who were my chefs became my partners. And it's very successful in that I've seen a lot of restaurants come and go. But we've sort of maintained our following, and we're now looking at 4 generations of clients coming through from the grandfather who's in the 80s and 90s right down to the 15, 16-year-old. So yeah, it's for us, or for me, it's a success story in that we've been able to maintain our clientele.
It sounds like you have a loyal following then.
Yes, we have. It's I think in the way I look at my industry is that you have to love what you do and do it with passion, and the friendships that you nurture over the years is your reward. At the age of 30, I was actually I'm a CPA by profession, and at the age of 30, I decided that behind a desk doing tax returns wasn't my idea of life for the next 30 years. So I ended up looking at industries where I could exploit my skills, and I thought, I'm a people person, so I think the restaurant game and the passion for food, being Italian, was hand in hand, yeah.
And how has COVID changed your business? Have you experienced a loss of trade or profit of any kind?
Well, the thing is, our business is doing very well, but the only problem is that every lockdown, we lose profit basically, and with the last couple of lockdowns, I compensate. I sympathise with my staff because they're used to getting a pay packet every week, and hence they can pay off their mortgages and all the government charges that that you incur and the council charges you incur. And they tend to struggle because they're trying to survive, and many other industries, like people like in the public service, accountants, etc., they tend to keep working via from home, etc. So they're getting paid whether there's a lockdown or not. So unfortunately, it's an unfair advantage overall. It means that there's a lot of money in the system or in the economy, and I sort of analysed the fact that property prices are going higher and higher, and And I'm thinking, well, obviously, people have got more money than they've ever had in other industries or in other facets of society, and hence, with the interest rate so low, and the fact that they're all getting paid fairly well in other industries, that housing prices will keep coming up, which disadvantages people in hospitality and the entertainment industry, because they're the two industries that are really been rocketed.
Was your restaurant able to get government funding of any kind during any of the lockdowns?
Yeah, we got some government funding, but nowhere near the amount of loss of profits that, put it this way, I would rather not get any funding because I would rather be open, because it doesn't correlate or compensate the losses that we occurred. I feel sorry for people that are paying rents on small businesses, because landlords have also got to make an income, and I see that governments of any persuasion, there's no cut to government charges like land tax, rates, they all keep rolling on, but there's no compensation or dispensation for those charges, even though the government tells you to lock down, but they don't compensate you for all the other charges that are coming through. And I'm sure that in the future, governments will need to reimburse themselves for all the monies that have been spent, and I'm sure that government charges are going to rise dramatically in the future.
When the restrictions came in, what in the restaurant, how it operated, like what process changed with that?
The good thing that, in one way, was when JobKeeper was given, it enabled us to do takeaways, because, takeaways, it's not a big money earner at all. In fact, takeaways only basically got us out of the house and basically broke even in terms of, the cost of operating. At least we didn't have to pay wages for staff when JobKeeper was in process, right? But with the last couple of lockdowns, where there was no JobKeeper, it's just not viable. And obviously, the takeaway market is basically sort of burgers, pizza, some Asian type cuisines. But generally speaking, our cuisine, which is, we're not pizza, we're the Italian, full-on Italian restaurant, that kind of food, when you put it in the takeaway format, just doesn't present well or taste well, because by the time the customer receives the food, it keeps cooking, and on the bites and the like, I'm sure that it becomes a bit of a muddle meal, and by the time they open it up, it just looks terrible.
What could be done to better this situation overall? Do you have any ideas for solutions?
Well, it's amazing. Like, I'm pretty anti those Uber Eats type formats, menu like. They take up to 35% of your sale. So if someone spends $100, they take $35 out of your $100. Now, restaurants do not make 35% profit on their product, and people are struggling as it is, and these computer formats basically middlemen who are ripping the guts out of hospitality.
What do you think should be done about, say, those Uber Eats and menu log companies? Should the government take some kind of stand?
Well, you can't, because it's free enterprise. This is free enterprise. But I tried it at one stage, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, and I just decided no, it's just not worth it. If someone wants to take away, yeah, look, we'll do takeaway, but pick it up. We'll give you a bit of a discount on the takeaway, but at least you're going to get the food in your hands, fresh from straight off the stove, and it'll be home in 5 minutes, and at least you've got a product that resembles what you would have in a normal restaurant situation.
As we mentioned before, that you have a loyal following. Were there supportive people in the community during the pandemic?
Yes, they are. Look, I'm so blessed that the customers when they do ring up and basically they're just saying, I'm ringing up because I want to support you because, you've given us great service over the years and we don't want you to basically go broke because you're not getting the clientele. So, as I said, I'm probably one of the lucky ones in the industry that has a good loyal following.
Did you have to innovate in any way to keep the business alive?
Well, we're pretty much old school. I just think, we've always said, look, every day you come in, do your best. Our menu is not restricted. In other words, customers can change anything on the menu. As long as we've got the product, our chefs are amazing. They can basically format anything people like, and now, this day and age, people are gluten-free, they're vegans, they're vegetarians, they're pescatarians. I mean, there's so many formats now, but we'll accommodate any demand that or any request that customers have, which a lot of places, tend to be a bit more rigid in their demands. The customer is coming to buy a product, and I think they should get what they want, not what the restaurant or the operator thinks is what they can get.
So that connection you have with your customers, do you think that the internet era has affected that overall for small businesses? Because do you think that's not as strong as it once was?
Yeah, it's true. Well, see, the younger generation, they're so used to using media, or not media, social media, and ordering things and just getting everything done. They would rather email me a request rather than ring up and talk to me directly. You've rung me this morning and we're closed. I have my mobile phone rediverted from my restaurant. I have my phone on 24/7, 7 days a week. Even when we're closed on a Sunday or even in the middle of the night, I sometimes get calls from overseas for a booking for someone else, but they're ringing me in the middle of the night. I'll take the call and take the booking, even though I'm not at the restaurant out of hours. I'm the type of person that likes to talk to people rather than reading emails and trying to respond via email. At the end of the day, people forget we're in hospitality. Hospitality, the word means, to be hospitable.
Something that came to my mind just is, it sounds like the backbone of small business is to be passionate and to love what you do. And it sounds like if we were to kind of lose that in society and go towards the big companies, we'd really lose the passionate people and the people that love what they're doing.
Well, this is the problem with I see with hospitality. I've noticed at a couple of places that I've visited, the waiter doesn't actually take an order. What they do is they say, our menu is on our website, and on your phone, you will then order through your phone what you want. So a waiter no longer takes your order. So a waiter is basically a cleaner-up or what I used to call a busboy, where they basically drop the food down on the table because you've ordered it, and they come up and clear the table. They actually not there to take any orders. So, all of a sudden, in future I can see, the elimination of a lot of staff in hospitality who are there to assist and cater to your needs. So the younger generation thinks that, everything can be done on a mobile phone, which is crazy.
I suppose also, if you think about with the pandemic too, that's seen a rise in digital use too. So perhaps that has also made that, as you say, a bit worse. Well,
people are not face-to-face communicating, and it's sad because there's nothing like looking at a person face-to-face and discussing or talking or becoming a friend. There's this disparity in the way we communicate now. It's all short sentences on a mobile phone.
How do you see the effects of the pandemic affecting the long-term future of the business?
I've now, swung this way. I think that if I was allowed to allow customers only who had been vaccinated, I would be more than happy to say, look, in future, if you haven't had your vaccine, your double dose of vaccine, I can't take your booking. Or I can't get you in, because, I believe that, until you've got a huge herd immunity present, you can't keep opening and closing little restaurants or little cafes. And, I sympathise with all the entertainment industry, where, a lot of these actors and singers and dancers, there's no work for them. And, I think, there's time now that if you haven't been vaccinated, you can't become part of the general society. I just think it's now time, it's proven that the vaccine does work, But, we've got a vaccine. Let's use it. Swamp that area with vaccine rather than try and close the whole state or the whole country.
Do you think we should do COVID passports?
Yes, absolutely. And I think in general, that then becomes the norm. So I'm sure we're going to get other viruses coming through in the future. This is a world problem. This isn't just, an Australian problem. I look at the way, Europe's opening up and America's opening up. Obviously, are we smarter than them, or I don't know. Sometimes I wonder.
How do you see the pandemic affecting the future of the hospitality business?
At present, it is a culling effect. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if probably 30-40% of the hospitality venues will not reopen. The other problem with the pandemic is that a lot of people are now moving out of our industry. I'm blessed that I have 6 full-time chefs that work for me, but and they're all kids that have done their apprenticeship through me. So I've basically allowed a build-up of staff that are born and bred in that Amiconi style. But a lot of people are moving out of hospitality into the building industry or the public service, etc., because they don't see a future in hospitality long term because of these constant lockdowns. And also, because a lot of hospitality positions were from overseas students who sort of bridged the gap in hospitality. A lot of these students have now gone back home. The other thing which I'm cleared off with is that in hospitality and a lot of industries, a lot of students can stay here on student visas. Well, and being a student visa, you can only work 20 hours a week. Now, that's great, but with 20 hours a week, the student fees are nearly doubled what the normal fees are for an Australian resident. And with 20 hours a week, they have to feed themselves, pay school fees, pay for transport, etc. And on 20 hours a week, you can't sustain that. And I think that's something where the governments have got to start looking at, because we need that kind of professional staff, which are from overseas anyway. And it means that, kids are moving out of that industry and going to other industries. So it's harder and harder to get staff.
Something you mentioned there too was that people are starting to see hospitality, possibly due to the pandemic, as a not quite as good career to go into, because it's just been so hard to make a dollar. With entertainment too, that's been a lot of these companies that they just can't survive, because to make a dollar you actually have to provide the services, and the entertainment industry has been almost wiped out, and hospitality has been suffering too, and it's a really sad thing to see in society, I think, because it's so important.
Well, it is, and if you're hospitality minded, you're trying to build a business, but you can't get the staff. Obviously, computer formats become the way of bridging the gap. Put it this way: true hospitality is when people are actually cooking products from raw material to the plate, and where someone comes in and recommends, the type of wine or type of beer you're going to drink, etc., etc. That's hospitality. These other formats of food distribution are basically vending machine type mentality, where you walk in and it's in 3 minutes you've got a burger or you've got a bowl of chips. That's not hospitality. And obviously the pandemic doesn't affect them because they're there to sort of, the takeaway format that hospitality has prospered. But it's not the format that, say, a true restaurant hospitality venue should be.
What would you say to perhaps the younger generation that's maybe looking at going to hospitality, knowing that the situation at the moment isn't the greatest for hospitality, but what would you say to them would you say to them perhaps it's to be strong and to keep going because it's so important?
Yeah, look, I think if you want to be a good chef, I think, become the best chef. Really, focus on your career. The one thing from, over the 40 odd years that I've noticed, that when I first started, becoming a waiter was a profession. And in fact, places like William English, had courses for being waiters, etc. No one says today, I want to become a professional waiter. It's not a profession any longer. It's a sort of a part-time job in between, becoming a pilot or something. It's not the profession that most people will aspire to.
Sounds like it's a bit of a lost art.
Well, it is. I mean, if you're because a good waiter, knows basically how food is cooked, how it's cooked, what's in the menu, knows their wine, and also has, I suppose, a good smile to life. I mean, you've got to be a happy person because, a customer that comes in doesn't want someone who just says, what would you like? Thank you, go, and then, here's the bill, or here's the food, and that's it. I mean, a good waiter can really make your business successful because people will always go back to a place that were made happy.
What would be the take-home from this interview you'd want people to remember the most?
Just remember that small hospitality venues survive on their patronage, and governments should not only look after the small businesses and industries, but also the little blokes that are husbands and wives who have mortgaged their houses and mortgaged their life, because in small business, we don't work a 38-hour a week, right? We live it 7 days a week. We have to do the paperwork, we have to be counsellors. We're sort of what small businesses have got departments to do things. We are the department for everything.
Well, thank you for sharing your perspective with us today, Michael. We appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. I'm glad I could voice my opinion, which is that's the great part of Australia, isn't it?
My guest today was Michael Cardamone, owner of the West Melbourne-based Italian restaurant Amiconi. Thank you for listening. I'm Jack Hodgins, and all of us at Wellbeing wish you well.